I wanted to post another video just talking about what I do to service the Ranger and the maintenance that I do on it and getting the plow ready for the upcoming winter. We have some nice weather, so I had a chance to come out and take care of some things which I probably won't be able to do later in the season. There's been a few more questions regarding just the Ranger itself and the plow, and I thought it'd maybe be helpful just for you guys to see some of the maintenance I do on it that's easy enough to do yourself, that you don't have to pay someone else to do. I had it serviced this year. Everything was fine. Nothing was wearing prematurely. My hillbilly hydraulic jack with some jack stands. I let someone borrow mine, so this is what we're using to hold up the front end. Should be sufficient. So the wheel bearings and ball joints were fine. There was no slop in them. Nothing was loose. There's nothing that was wearing sooner than what it should, and this will be the 4th winter of using the plow. Just a rough guess. I probably have used it maybe 100 times in 3 years. We've had decent amount of snow each winter, so I've got a lot of use out of it. But while I had everything apart, I did go ahead and remove the old ball joints and wheel bearings. I pressed them out. There's a video that talks about having to take off the control arm. You don't have to take off the control arm. You can press out the wheel bearings, or excuse me, the ball joints pretty easily. Obviously you have to take off the whole knuckle here, and it slides out pretty easily. You'll have to have a shop press to push out the wheel bearings. I'm pretty anal about preventative maintenance. Even though the ball joints and wheel bearings look fine and there's no issues, I did swap them out. I went to Super ATV. They had a good sale going on earlier this year. I got greasable ball joints that are also adjustable. You can see that there's the top one there. I replaced the grease fitting with a little nippled grease fitting. It comes with the lower profile grease fitting that you have to use the needle grease attachment for, and I had some of these laying around, so I just replaced it. And then you can either use pliers, needle nose pliers, and you turn this clockwise to tightness as it starts to wear, and you can make it as tight or as loose as you want. And there's a lock pin. You take out this retaining ring, and there is a hole, small hole with a lock pin in it. You just slide it out, make your adjustment, slide it back in, and put in the retaining clip. So they had a good sale on these. I think they're normally $85 a ball joint. I got all 4, I think, for $200. And the wheel bearings, they had a great sale on. So I just let it set until I had time to do it. And I figured since I had it apart, it's not too bad of a job. I did it myself just to save some money. And I'm not a spectacular mechanic by any means, but I was able to do it without too much hassle. There are some videos online. I did not record it, but if you guys have questions about it, I could kind of walk you through it. They press out real easily. They press back in without much trouble at all. Again, the wheel bearings, you'd have to have a shop press just for better control to press them out and to press new ones in. While I had it off, I put on new rotors and new brake pads. New brake pads and new rotors I put on. And again, there's videos all over the internet regarding how to do the brakes on this, and it's same thing. Not a whole lot different than car brakes. The rotor was a little tougher to get off. They do use Loctite, so it did take a little bit of time and heating up the bolts just to back those out. And with all the more wear that was on it, is probably unnecessary, but again, everything's done now, the entire front end with the ball joints, wheel bearings, rotors and pads. It's all done, but I've had no issues with the original ones. I know there was some concern about that there'd be premature wear, but there wasn't at all. Here are the brake pads. still pretty good amount of meat on those. Those are the ones I took off. But since I had it apart, I just wanted to get everything done. Here are some of the ball joints that I took off. They're not greasable, but the boots were not split. They were not loose. They seem to be well intact and don't seem to show any signs of premature wear at all. I had no issues in terms of squeaking or slop that I noticed either. So here's I bought an extra one, greasable. That's the fitting that comes with it. More of a lower profile fitting that you can use the needle grease attachment for. And then there's that little hole. You take off that little retaining clip. You take off that retaining clip, and there's a little pin in there, which I think maybe you can see. There you go. That little teeny pin. You slide it out. Clockwise is your adjustment for tighter. Counterclockwise for loose, a little bit looser. Depends on what you're using it for and what kind of setting you want. Slide that little retaining pin in there, and then put the retaining clip back on, and then you're set. So we'll see what kind of wear I get out of these, but so far so good. And I think it really comes down to just being smart about how you use the plow. Don't beat the hell out of it, which applies for most things. If you're gonna be rough on them, things will wear a little bit quicker. What I'm going to do is, I brought up the plow with the tractor today. I rinsed it off, and I'm just going to show you guys what I do to get that ready and how easy it is to attach. I'm not going to put any weight in the back right now because I'm going to wait till we get closer to winter. Plus I have some garbage in there right now. So obviously I end up doing all the maintenance when everything was apart. So all the greasing, find all the grease fitting, all the grease circs, grease everything up, just do a double check, make sure your fluids and everything are all set. And then, whatever you need to do in terms of oil changes, fluid changes, anything like that, which I did earlier this year. So I'll put the tire and wheel back on. I'll pull up to the plow. This will be the first time I put it on, and I'll show you guys. All I did is bring it up from the barn and attach it for the first time, and it's really quick and very simple. So if somebody has a similar setup regarding maintenance, how easy it is to take on and off, what I do every winter, every spring and every winter, just to get it ready, it's very, very minimal amount of work. So if you guys have questions, let me know, but I'm going to put it back down and pull it up to the plow, and then we'll take a peek at that. So I brought the plow over with the tractor and try to get it lined up here close for when we hook it up. So I started doing my own maintenance on the plow last year instead of paying the place where I bought it. I think they wanted $120 for the winter maintenance that they do on it. And the serviceman that does it, he's a great guy. He installs all their plows. He said it's really not necessary to spend that kind of money, and just gave me a few pointers. Again, there's some videos on YouTube already about servicing and maintenance on a Boss plow, whether it be a V or a straight, smaller UTV plow or a big truck plow. They're all pretty much the same. So I change the fluid every year. Some people use Boss fluid. That's what I choose to use. Some people use just a universal fluid, which I think is a little bit more of a risk, but it's definitely less expensive. So the drain plug is there. On this plow, it's an 8mm Allen wrench. Back that out, let it drain completely. Obviously do this when it's attached to the machine. So once it's attached to the machine, put the plow down, take out the drain plug, let it drain out, remove the filler cap right here on this 90-degree elbow, take off the lid, let it drain. There's a little bit less than a gallon that I've noticed when I change it maybe 3/4 of a gallon. So let that drain out. Put the plug back in. I used a little bit of plumber's tape on there. Probably not recommended, and I'm sure some people would say it's not what you should use, but I chose to use it in the past and I've never had a leak with it. So you fill it back up through the elbow here. Take the lid off, little cap off. It's all plastic, so just be careful with it. I'm do it when it's warmer, minimize the risk of it snapping. Fill it back up, little teeny funnel, slowly. I fill it up until it actually started to overflow a little bit. The biggest piece of advice and what the serviceman who deals with the Boss plows said that you don't want to do is overfill this. That can actually be pretty detrimental to the pump itself and can cause problems. So when you're filling this up, when you're all done, you want it to be at the bottom of the elbow, not even at the top, definitely not up here. And I found the easiest way to do that after he gave me this piece of advice is, so you're filling it up, it gets up a little bit higher on the elbow, maybe up to here. Stop filling it up, turn it counterclockwise, 180 degrees straight down when it's on the machine again, obviously. And that will drain it down to where it's at the bottom of this elbow. And that's how he said you avoid overfilling this. Even if it goes up to the top of the elbow, that's too full. So that's what I did. I've never had any problems with it. That's what Boss recommends, and that's what the installation guy recommended as well, the one that put on the plow and serviced it for the first few years. So fill it up, turn it down, turn it back up, put the cap on, and cycle the plow 7, 8, 9 times up and down, right and left, V, scoop, do that 8 or 9 times, cycle it through, put it back down, take the cap off, see where you're at. If you need to top it off a little bit more, same thing, fill it up a little bit. Wait, you want to be able to see at the bottom of the elbow, not at the top. Same thing, turn it down, let a little bit of that dribble out, and it'll stop, obviously, when it gets to the bottom of this elbow. And then turn it back up, put the cap on, cycle it through a few times, and you should be set for another year, another season. So I'm going to do that in the next few days. Obviously, lube everything that you need to lube on the plow itself, whether it be just WD-40 and little pin areas that are just moving here and there. There's a few grease fittings that need to be greased every year, and then obviously the big hinge in the front, you need to have the small needle attachment to grease this big center pin that runs up here. Grease it until all this comes out. So I need to do that for this year. And then I'll clean it up, put a light coat of wax on it just to help keep the snow from sticking as easily, and then I'm off and running. That's really all I do. And it's a bottle of the Boss fluid was, I think, $19-20 for a gallon, and I used 3/4 of a gallon last year, is from what I remember. So it's not very expensive just to do yourself, and it's super simple. Check the thumb screws on the top, check your fittings. These thumb screws, one year they came loose. Again, sometimes I'll just hit some of these fittings with WD-40 just to kind of keep them from rusting up as much. But it's been great, and I still have enough cutting edge on here. This will be the 4th season. I'm going to go through this season and maybe consider replacing the cutting edge next year, but it's really worn pretty well. So let's hook it up real quick for the first time. Here's the controller. So that plugs in down here on mine is where we mounted it. Plugs in there. You're going to turn it on, and you need to double click twice, and this will turn red, and that will allow you to cycle the plow. So we'll start it. you see it's green. If you just push it down once, it stays green. Twice, quickly, turns red. So let's see if I can do this with one hand. I don't have a fancy GoPro or anything like that. Alright, so you get it into the cradle. You have to flip the pins inward, which will allow them to spring into the holes once you activate the hydraulic on the tower. So flip those, undo your electrical connections. Like I said, I'm sorry about the camera work here. Definitely not a pro with the camera stuff. Hook it up. I put a ton of dielectric grease in there every year. I have not done that this year, so that's the other thing that I would do maintenance wise every year. A lot of dielectric grease in there. So you have the two connections. Gotta make sure those are out of the way. And then you can raise it up from the switch on the side, and some come with it and some don't. I opted for the one with it. So as it raises up, those pins are now flipped over, they're spring loaded, and they're going to snap right into that, I hope. So you hear it engage, those pins snap in. Underneath there, and that's it. So I know it's a long video, not a lot of action or anything like that, but that is a plow that's been setting all summer, put on for the first time. Quick overview of the maintenance on the plow itself. Pretty simple. What I do with the Ranger, how it's worn really well, no issues. Like I said, preventive maintenance is something that I do probably over the top, but I think it's a better option than letting it fail in the middle of the winter. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. I think I'm gonna post some videos of the Mahindra and some of the things I was doing with it this summer, but for now we'll stick with this. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks.